Okay, number one there, Mr.
Yes, the
Rice.
first ordinance is an ordinance to provide for the adoption of a budget containing estimates of proposed revenues and expenditures for the calendar year beginning 2013, January 1st. This was tabled from your December 11th, 2012 meeting.
We would have,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to amend the budget to include the items we discussed last Thursday as outlined in Jeff's memo dated 1/7/13 totaling $402,110.
So those would be removals.
That's what we discussed, and that was the consensus. That's when we talked about and did a consensus. Everything that was listed per the consensus reduction.
would you like to go over that list again for everybody's FYI?
Before we,
Could we do that individually?
I just made a motion, is there a second?
Well, let's get a second
can
on
second
the
about it.
motion. Okay. Again, I think for councils and listening audiences edification, Diane, if you would review those.
The first one was fire suppression. The proposed cut is $100,000 due to the fire chiefs found additional ways that they can fund these cuts in our budget. The LST DETI in the amount of $64,860. Mayor Council gift and grants, a $10,000 cut due to the CBB board approving to support our parades and in that amount. Community development, $100,000 for the new staff position and benefits. I believe that was the planner. Library, $100,000, delete vacant position and benefits with regard to the webmaster. Traffic signals, $2250, telephone, telegraph, and then under engineering, $25,000 for engineering services, for a total of $402,110.
Council, questions or comments?
Yes, I have a
Your
question.
time.
Can we address these individually?
It is certainly your right to do as you choose,
I mean,
sir.
being that there was a motion and a second.
we could,
We have
during the
consensus.
discussion,
We
There's
had
a motion and a
consensus-
second.
yeah, we had a consensus on Thursday. This is what Jeff put together during our consensus.
Mr. Dice.
And Steve is suggesting he wants to do them individually.
So you should put a motion.
well, we'd have to vote on the
We'd have to
motion and
amend-
second first.
Motion and second.
I know.
If we're going to do it this way, I don't necessarily disagree with Steve. I would tell you that the library, for instance, is not $100,000. We know that it's $69,560 is the actual loaded cost. So it is not $100,000, therefore it's not 402. Secondly, the fire suppression is tied to the agreement that we keep the dispatch. It's unfortunate that we want to do this, in one sense, it's unfortunate that we want to do this separately, although it gives us an opportunity to vote on whether we believe that the state mandate for county services, that we stick with that, or whether we continue to spend out of our own pockets for an additional house that we don't need to own. When you're rich, you often own two houses. When you're broke, which Monroeville currently is, you typically try to sell one of your houses. And we are mandated. But anyway, so that's the one thing that definitely needs to be changed. The library is not $100,000, it's $69,560.
Well, question for you, Mr. Dice. Obviously, Mr. Duncan's looking for a way to address, is there something that he can do?
Well, you have a motion to amend, and
Right.
you have a second to it.
Correct.
And it incorporates the whole.
Right.
The only way to separate the whole is to make a motion to amend the amendment.
That's right.
That means if one of you wants one thing or two things taken out, you have to make a motion to amend it to take out one or two things that Diane has included or include additional.
Right.
Well, I think
So
if we're
so
going
we
to
have
do
to
this...
go with the current motion, correct?
No, you have to
No,
make a
you
motion to
Make
amend
an
it.
amendment.
I could make that now?
Yes.
I'd
You
like
have
to
to
make
make
a motion to amend
The amended motion.
the amended motion,
To do what?
To do,
to do these individually.
Is there a
I'd second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, now there's two motions on the floor. The last one has to be voted on first.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
That means you're voting on Steve's motion to do them individually.
And this would then negate the tabled motion that I made previously.
That is
That's correct.
I got it straight.
Glad you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clarence, or Mr. Ramsey, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mrs. Allison?
No.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Unfortunately, aye.
Okay. Now, my suggestion is, you've got Burns at the, well, put yours at the end.
I've got the, what?
Go ahead.
Well, I have my, I mean, I have the spreadsheet here. We can pull in, take out all day long, vote on each one of these things, and we'll know where our shortfall is. There's a reason I would like to leave I would like to take mine off the table, although I'm not ready to vote on it at this moment.
All right, well, let's address the 5 items that Diane has listed.
Okay, let's address the fire suppression, and that is the $100,000.
Is there a motion to accept
To
that?
accept that.
I'd like to
from
make
the
a
removal.
motion, we accept.
And remove that?
Remove it from the budget.
I second.
Roll call, Shannon.
Now, can we have discussion on
Oh,
the-
sure, discussion, absolutely.
All right, let's clarify, when we're saying that individually, we're addressing the fire suppression line of $100,000, that constitutes taking $100,000 from what is offered from the 5 fire chiefs who are in front of us. They did not list
They did not.
what those things were, and I didn't get a response to my email today. I'm not sure whether or not those things would have normally been covered from their fire relief fund. And it also is tied to keeping open the dispatch center, is that correct?
It is tied to it. He
The
said that it's
answer
tied
is
to
you are
it.
right.
I just want to clarify it.
You're right. That is correct.
So-
My question is, and basically they said, if there would be a vote for keeping the dispatch open or closed, that if it would be voted to be closed, they would want it back. So
They'd
you can
want their
still-
100 grand.
You can still vote on accepting it and then do that and then follow through on it. So you don't have to tie them together in this
Right.
vote. Correct, Mr. Dice?
Correct.
Good point, Diane.
That makes
Thank you.
sense.
Makes
does.
sense.
So there's a motion and a second.
Motion and second,
And-
any other comments?
And one more clarification, the motion is to
Remove
remove that portion, that line,
$100,000 from the
$100,000.
budget.
From the budget.
yeah, tied to the action that was stated. Okay,
Under fire suppression.
that's correct.
Everybody clear?
Everybody done? Any other questions or comments? We're sure making this stuff, folks. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
No,
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll move over to the LST and the delinquent tax.
I'd like to make a motion to remove this item. I'm sorry. Correction, please. I want to make a motion to preserve this in the budget.
And I'll second it.
Questions or comment?
Why?
Roll call, Sharon,
I
please.
said why.
Oh,
In light
I'm
of
sorry, I
our,
thought you meant that was to me, I'm sorry.
in light of our new information from the tax collector, I would like to have this discussed further.
And what's the new light that has been shown that makes it relevant to keep?
That doesn't seem to be saving as much as we think it's going to save.
How much do you think it's going to save? What figure would you put there? Did you would think be appropriate regardless of what you choose to do? What figure do you think is different?
I think there's savings that we have to consider, and I think also, too, we have to consider level of service to consider and factor those two things together. I think it's challenging to put a monetary figure on a level of service and what you think is proper, or what residents.
To the local service, which is hardly has a lot of people come in the delinquent earned income. Not real estate, because I've been in there with a lot of people from real estate who are in there asking questions. I agree. But
At the 11th hour, I am not convinced that this is something that is good for the community.
Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
no,
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
No.
The motion passes.
Next is parades. Parades.
Oh, on the parades, that's the $10,000 reduction under the gifts and grants for mayor council.
Yeah.
To remove it.
To remove it, I'm sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
The
a,
10,000.
do we have to make a motion on that? That's something that we're getting money from somebody else. Do we have to do anything?
Well, we wanted to go inch.
Oh, we have to reduce the budget, that's true.
Yeah.
You're right.
And
I'd make a motion that we reduce it.
Second.
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 Any questions or comments on this? Roll
Why don't
call.
we give it back?
I'm sorry.
What the hell?
Stop it, Diane. Roll call, Sharon.
I'd like more.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And,
Planning director.
oh, yeah, the planning director and, what is that? Planning, that's for the planning department, correct? Yeah, okay.
Development position.
Motion on the floor, folks. That's $100,000, basically. Correct?
I would motion that we remove this line item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
Is that an exact number?
It's going to be very close.
Is that about right, Sharon? Or, not Sharon. Susan?
Total on the planning director in the budget is,
And the number that you give us, is that going to be a loaded number or just salary?
that's everything included, 78,609.
I'm sorry?
78,609.
So basically.
And that's fully loaded with OPEB, with FICA that we have to pay for everything that, healthcare,
There's no OPEB in there,
okay, healthcare?
healthcare and everything else.
Can you give me that number one more time?
78,609.
Okay. May I amend whoever made the motion to 78,609 since
Sure,
that's the real
please.
number?
Okay,
There's a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
Did I make the motion?
you did.
Yeah, I think you
lost
did.
at
You
this
amend
point.
your own.
That's
Second.
okay.
Second.
Mr. Duncan
We're having
seconded
fun
it.
anyway. Any questions or comments on the motion, or the amended motion, I should say? Seeing none, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And the last one's on the library, and Mr. Erb, it's $69,000 and
$560. $69,560.
motion on the floor.
Motion to remove it.
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Okay, that's our 5 items.
No, there's
Now we
two
have
more.
Oh, 2 more?
I don't know what they are. That's just part of it.
Traffic signals for 2250.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Well, I was going by
Yeah.
your, okay, on our traffic signals, that's, is that the actual number?
Well,
2,000
That, the,
$2,250.
that's correct, and I move that that be considered a remove,
To be removed?
to be removed. That would be, that reduced the budget, yes.
Okay.
I have a motion on that.
And there's a second? Okay. Questions or comments on traffic signals? Seeing none, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
And moving over to engineering, there's a proposed cut of $25,000 from engineering services.
Move to reduce that by 25,000.
Second.
Questions or comments on this item?
I still find that, along with Mr. Hugus, to be I think it's certainly prudent to tell Mr. Silka to get new quotes on engineering. I don't know how you can take a contracted service that you have no idea what the costs are and simply reduce it by 25,000 based on estimates of projects, but
Well, if you've looked at the fee schedules, which were not done in a fair manner, but were presented nonetheless for reduced costs, you can see the cost savings. I'll show it to you.
25,000?
So you can just take a look at each one of those positional hourly rates, and you can apply the math just based on the number of times that that position charges the number of hours underneath that hourly rate.
Okay. And you say it comes out to about 25,000?
I would feel confident in it.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this item before you, council? Well, I do have one, and I'm going to back up Mr. Erb on this as well as Mr. Hugus. We don't know what 2013 brings. I mean, if we have a lot of projects coming in, if we already reduced that even before we even get out of the start gate, where are we going to get the money from? That's food for thought for everybody. But there's a motion and a second.
Didn't he say that these weren't the new rates even that we got from Chester? So these didn't even incorporate the new lower rates. So you
Right.
kind of still have
Yeah.
okay to kind of feel okay about it.
And a way of looking at it, one can look at the lower rates
Rates,
that
yeah.
are not part of that, yes.
Well,
Okay,
but
well, that's why I was
consider this
asking.
also, council. I'm hoping that between Mr. Hugus' office and our engineering staff and our and Mark and them, that we're going to have a lot of business trying to move in over the next year or so. I mean, that's the goal. Certainly with Mr. Silka's new economic incentive program, hopefully that'll be a benefit to us. I'm a little worried if I understand you want to be austere with the budget, but let's don't cut our nose to spite our
Not
face.
austerity either.
I think Councilwoman Drumheller gave an adequate answer to the question.
No
Which
question.
is that she's applied some principles to it, and using the principles that we formulated the original budget, she's determined that that using their analysis, that you could go
I
to
just always
25,000.
throw it out
So,
there for your consideration. You can
I
throw it right
understand.
out the window like you did, sir.
I understand.
None of the questions or comments, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Now we go back.
I'm going to just pause here for a second.
We're layering down now.
All right,
We're down.
so now we're back to the original
Correct.
ordinance, which is to provide for the budget as amended.
I would like to remove, I think we already removed this from the table. Actually, we didn't vote on it, but I'd like to remove from the table the amended budget the amendment I offered previously. Since we're going to vote on amendments before the budget, let's look at this.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd
you're
like
making
to
a
pull that, I'm making a motion to pull that from the table.
Second?
Second.
Okay,
Oh. Roll call, Sharon.
You have any discussion?
Any discussion? Obviously,
We'd be voting,
he's, from his original, that he submitted a proposed budget for your
so
consideration.
he's bringing it back on.
He's pulling it off.
No, I'm putting it back on, I'm
putting it
taking
back
it
on? I
off the
thought you
table
said-
so that we can talk about it.
For
Oh, I'm sorry, I
consideration.
misunderstood
Consideration.
you. I misunderstood you. I apologize.
No, it makes it a live motion.
Yes, it
I have
does.
another proposal.
Discussion, council.
For any,
Thank you for, I did not hear you say
All right,
that.
that's
I
point of
apologize.
clarification, that's all.
cut somewhere, somebody else.
Probably my wording, I'm sure.
No, well. Council, discussion on the item before you. There's a motion and a second.
Again, this is simply to be able to look at the other thing again, so.
Go for a roll. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
And to clarify, this is to allow it to be discussed. We're not voting on it.
No, we're not voting on the motion, we're voting on a motion to look at the other motion.
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
I'm going to revise my motion, because my motion originally included some of the line items which we've now put into the current change. I'm still going to, just for everybody's And I've printed out new copies. People called it the Herb Amendment. I inadvertently printed it that way. I think you have copies in your packet of the original proposal. The budget as proposed was $27,254,846. Based on real estate taxes previously, the real amount of tax receipts we should expect are $24,504,827.73. It means we have a shortfall, folks, a huge one, and this doesn't account for OPEB, by the way. We have a huge shortfall, $2,750,018.27. We had 3 members of council, well, so my budget, my motion is to close the dispatch center and have those services handled as is mandated by the state, by the county, and eliminate a duplicate service. That would save us, because it'll take us 4 months or so to move it, $541,017.40. Based on the other items that we just voted on, we still have a shortfall of $2,023,000, sorry, $2,023,581.87. That's a 7.63, and because I included the firemen's money, and the firemen will want that back, the real number is actually $2,123,581.87. We're basically 8% shortfall overall. I propose that we take that 8% across the board, and the managers of the municipality, the people that we charge with running it, the manager himself and his employees, that we have them deal with that 8%. They know how to run the business. Let them. We make policy decisions. It's a policy decision to keep things or not. That gives us a balanced budget of $24,504,827.73. That's actually slightly off, because we should get, that actually saves us, gives us a slight surplus of about $200,000, which is good, since Mr. Silka also included, I believe, and Mr. Silka, you can verify this, but let me finish the motions. So the motion is basically a balanced budget of $24,504,827.73, but it includes closing the dispatch center in Monroeville and moving it to the county facilities.
There's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments on this
Can you
item?
just read what it includes again?
I'm sorry?
Can you just read what it includes again? Dispatch center, what else?
If we did this,
Yeah.
it'd be dispatch, community development, and none of these other things are in there. We voted on these, but this is where the money comes from.
Oh,
We
we already voted on.
already voted on all those other line items.
Okay.
What we're voting on is a twofold thing: closing the dispatch and balancing the budget. I have a couple comments. Number one, Mr. Silka can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, as was properly pointed out by Mr. Cooper, the intent was to spend $120,000 of money that is in reserve for OPEB. You were planning to put it into the general fund and move it to spend it on the budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So the good news is that with the differential here, you shouldn't need to do that. And in fact, we may have to vote on that separately if there's still a shortfall.
This implies committing $121,000, which was the original figure, back into OPEB to partially fund it.
Or it should be left in the reserve for OPEB, but it's reserve money. It's allocated to a specific purpose. It's restricted funds. We can't simply move it willy-nilly. Let me talk specifically, though, about reasons, again, in case anybody on council has forgotten, why it's important that we close the dispatch center and why we move it to the county. I have copies here. I think that the manager secretary, Lynette, has additional copies if any members of council want it. It's basically what you have before, but I also have the following comments on there. Again, I can't understate or overstate this enough. ISO rates the county 911 higher than Monroeville's dispatch. We were told at one time that this would save us all of our tax dollars. We wouldn't care about a tax increase because there would be such a savings. We now know that that's not true. So number one, the ISO rates, the ISO, which is where insurance, it's an insurance rating entity, it rates the county 911 higher. I've already stated it's a state mandate. They actually control 911. They own it. We don't. We have to get a ring down. We can't get 911 directly to this facility. Number two, FEMA and PEMA best practices are defined by centralized command and control. You get centralized command and control at a county level, and we are part of Allegheny County, through that county. If there is a catastrophic event, we are not equipped to handle it. Not a single one of us are. We don't have the facilities, we don't have the people that are trained to do it. The county does, and they also have access to mines at universities and to better access to FEMA and PEMA than we do.
Mr. Erb, would you also, pardon my interruption, and that would have been learned in a course that was NIMS for certification for elected officials, and that was the same course I was telling everybody they needed to take.
Yes.
They would have gained that information and understood that. Okay.
Number three, we have mismanaged the dispatch and incurred large overtime costs in 2012 as a result of not keeping our employees current on their training. We had employees that went as far as 4 years out of training. They're supposed to be trained every 2 years. They went 4 years beyond that. Number four, this is used as a jobs program for the fire departments. The employees down there are volunteers in the fire departments. The fire chiefs admitted to it. The dispatchers are volunteers, and they will defer to the chiefs instead of the commander on the ground in a situation, and it has been done, where a chief has commanded them to do something different than the person on the ground, and they have changed dispatch based on that. We're talking about safety. This is a dangerous practice. In the county, it will never happen. Number five, the county does not allow stacking. Stacking is saving EMS calls for an ambulance already with a patient. We have 8 ambulances, and we pay $80,000 for those ambulances. Why in God's name would we ever stack, ever? We talk about the county possibly, maybe, it could be 3 minutes to pass a call from the person that answers it to the actual dispatcher. Folks, I've been there. It doesn't take that long. That's an insane lie. But we have stacked in delayed calls by 5 minutes in the last 6 months, including at least 1 cardiac patient. We have held a cardiac patient for 5 minutes. We're worried about 3 minutes. 5 is bigger than 3. and we have caused 5 for real. Number 6, Plum is rated the 6th safest city by Neighborhood Scout, which rates cities based on FBI crime statistics, and it's used by real estate agents. Guess what, folks? They're not using Monroeville's dispatch. They use County 911. Number 7, County 911 is run by and employs many Monroeville residents or Eastern Regional Communications Center alumni, and hires EMS as well to do the calls, just like we do. Folks, the fire chiefs are going to get up here and they're going to move the target every single time. If we don't close it this year, you have saddled Monroeville forever with this thing. You go and you ask them for money, they come back and they give you a paltry $100,000 on $500,000, and we accept it? Folks, we're talking about their tax dollars, we're talking about their lives. I have nothing further to say.
There was a second on this motion, correct?
Oh, yes, there was.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Can I clarify the vote? This is to,
Is this to remove the dispatch center?
This is to remove the dispatch center
Close it.
and to balance
And
the
to close,
budget.
and to balance the budget.
you want to,
I'll say no.
a vote, Mr. Duncan?
he
Change
wasn't.
mine. No.
Mine is no.
Mrs. Allison?
No.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesach?
No.
Mr. Erb?
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Nice.
this is a complete disservice to the people of Monroeville.
Let's keep it quiet here, folks. Certainly, that's your opinion. Obviously, others on council did not feel that way. Mr. Dice?
I think I've read it twice.
May I,
Oh, yes.
can I make a motion to amend the budget?
Sure.
I've looked at this, unfortunately. I apologize to my family for not seeing me for the last couple of days, although I was in my house. I've really been looking at a lot of things and what we could do, and I looked at past budgets, and I put out notes on our reserve fund, how we have a 10% reserve. There's been suggested many times, our general fund reserve that we keep in there at a 10%. I've seen it many times brought up year after year, and I have them in my other budgets to go to 5, and I'm not very comfortable with that. So I don't think if anyone's looking at a tax increase, that all of the burden should go to the taxpayers as well. So I am struggling a lot with this, and I came up with an idea of reducing the general fund reserve to 7.5%, which will save and remove from, it will save $715,376. And also, I found an error not an error, I guess Sue used her original numbers to take the 10%, so there's an additional 4,000. So that actually will take the total tax revenue required down to under 6 million. Then we get the 4 million from our neutral rate, which to balance it would possibly have taxes raised at a little over a half amount, which equates to, how much, Bruce?
$500,000?
Mm-hmm.
What would that be?
How
From the
much,
neutral rate?
$50? $50. So.
Oh, I think it's I think it's, you mean per month?
No,
Per
years.
year.
That's about right. That's right, it's $10 a month.
$50.
About $5.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's half,
I
yeah.
mean,
And
and
that
I
would
think.
keep our services.
Yeah, that would keep all the services. Still gives a cushion. I'm not very comfortable going to 5, I have to say. 7.5 is everybody kind of sharing the burden, and at a little over half a meal is $50 a year, which I think is, and I always looking at agreements, and I look at contracts, and I look at negotiations, and it's kind of like, if everyone kind of goes, well, we're not really happy, but it's fair, I think fair is fair. I think fair is okay. Because you can look at a big tax increase if you don't do this, and I don't think the residents should bear the burden. I understand, I want to support services, I have gotten emails with regards to it. If you would, if we would close our, if we would discontinue our trash collection, I contacted someone in Plum. They pay $16 a month. You would have to get your own trash collection. If you lived in Monroeville, it's $45 per quarter, $50 per year on a house of $100,000. I think, and it's less than that. We had people fill the room for $15 a month when we want to do a trash collection. So it's less than that. It's less than that what we proposed years ago for that. So, I mean, this is another idea I'm throwing out there to try to balance our budget. So,
Are you making a motion?
making a motion to reduce the general fund reserve to 7.5%.
From its 10%.
Correct.
Second.
There's a second.
Have we talked with any
Discussion.
actuaries to find out what that's going to do to the interest rates that will be charged for the enormous amount of borrowing that we do every year?
That's the rating agencies, and that's based upon analysis. But GFOA does recommend 5 to 15% levels.
Correct.
And that's smack in the middle.
Yeah, so we're above.
So we're
5.
still in the recommended,
Well, 10 is smack in the middle, 7.5 is on the low end, but I'd just be interested to know what the rating agencies are going to do, because it impacts more than just this year.
Well, you know, if we're having discussion on that, I could add to that, and of course, that was in consideration of that. I also had reason to want to change the accounts receivable cash cycle. It is a fact that the municipality of Monroeville, with all of its vendors, currently has a 30-day rolling accounts receivable, which, if you compare with general industries, is really good. If you look at the bottom of somebody's bill and they expect payment in 30 days, that's really unusual. I left a corporation in the end of 2006 that the standard was 90. And they have a hard time, paying all their taxes. Well, the fact of the matter is, anybody who's a vendor with the municipality of Monroeville knows full well that they're going to be paid, and it's back full by every full faith of the taxpayers of Monroeville. They do business with us. They should expect that we need to have, in consideration of a cushion, when you have a slightly lower reserve fund balance, that you have a longer accounts payable cycle. And I'm also suggesting that we go to 90 days. That is not to make up for having to move from 10%, but it's in consideration of that.
As a small businessman at one time in my life, I wouldn't agree with that, only because there's a little guy out there that has employees and does whatever. And his accounts receivables are so important
Of course,
to keep them moving.
of course.
And if you get some of these guys and you get, as a vendor, and you're moving on, you got 5 or 6 accounts out there, and they're all at 90 days, well, guess what? You're struggling. You're going to the bank borrowing money, and it's...
Well, unless, of course.
Is this an amendment?
No, we've got, this is discussion toward that, and I don't know whether that's an administrative action or whether that's an act of council.
How does it relate to the emergency fund reduction?
Well, because, yeah, we have a
Well,
motion and a
because-
second on that, folks. Yeah, I agree. Thank
Well,
you for-
because when you are, you're proposing what your expenditures are. If you looked at what our proposed expenditures were, well, we had to dig down and get about an extra $1 million this year, okay? So if you want a rolling balance that maybe has a little bit more of a cushion in it, you may want to have that cycle manipulated, if not 90 days, 60 days. I think it's reasonable, and I think that Mr. Johns would agree with me that most businesses out there do not have 30 days.
Any other questions or comments, council?
That's my comment. I don't know whether or not it's administrative action. Maybe somebody wants to clarify that.
Well, I'm asking this, are you amending this motion?
It depends on whether or not I need to amend it.
No, there,
Because...
I don't understand the
because-
relationship between the two.
Because it has to do with the contractual relationship between vendors and the municipality. If we send out contracts, and part of the understanding is that is when they will be paid, then that affects the way that those contracts are devised for our vendors. Is that something that has to have an approval of council? That's what I'm asking, because I know that that will affect the cushion that you have in your reserve fund.
You asking me? Yeah. Absolutely, it requires council's approval.
Okay, then it's going to be not considered now, and I'm going to make a motion for it after this. So this discussion is not relevant to the vote.
Okay.
roll call, Sharon, please, on Diane's motion to reduce the
Reserve fund
reserve
balance.
funds from 10% to 7.5, which will then entail make the tax increase, proposed tax increase, smaller.
Well, it's smaller. What, I did it based on everything, so the .5 where I came, did all my numbers, did include everything else, which we didn't include, so.
Well, we'll have
I
that
just have to-
clarified. If this
right.
goes through, we can have that clarified for council in black and white, and we can put it on the website for all the residents to review as well. Does that
Yeah,
suffice?
I mean, I know it reduces it significantly, but that, the .5.
I think
which
we're all
like-
clear up here, but I'm not sure our
Okay.
audience is on the same page. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No, I'm not going to do this without knowing what it's going to do to our interest rates.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Okay.
Now, may I move?
She wants to make a motion. It's your call. Go ahead.
Well, I motion that we have an accounts, a rolling accounts receivable cycle that extends from 30 to 60 days.
30 to 60?
Yes,
What is it?
it's 30.
You pay everybody every 30 days, like everybody else in the world.
Now 60. All
I'll second that.
right?
Questions or, basically, is everybody clear what this motion's about on council?
Are there any questions?
Instead of, okay,
Oh, you're delaying the pay.
yes,
What you do is
Another 30 days.
you agree that people will be paid within that time
right.
frame. If you take a look at business practices, I used an example of, I didn't say who I used to work for, but I left that corporation in 2006. And I would welcome anybody's comment here that in reality, most businesses moved from a 30-day must-pay vendor to guaranteeing that the cycle is 60 days. And what I'm suggesting, and actually, most of them have moved toward 90 days.
What does that help for the budget? I'm a little lost.
Well, it allows to have more cash on hand. In trying to make sure that there is a reserve and when things come due, or when there are higher accounts, our accounts that are payable.
But at the end of the day, though, it's still the same amount of money.
Well, no, yeah, that's
It's-
true,
you have-
but
You have the flow,
It's true.
this is one of the
More
reasons
flow.
businesses, well, you have the flow. You get interest on the money that you're continuing to keep.
yes,
I'd like to amend your
my
your
motion?
Yes, your motion. to 45 days with a net 10, with a 1% net 10, which means that if we pay within 10 days, we take a 1% discount.
Okay.
That would actually help the small businessman, because they'd get paid in a timely fashion.
Okay.
And it helps us because it gives us a 1% discount on anything that we choose to pay on time.
I would second Mr. Erb's proposal.
Is there questions or comments on that? I certainly have
Does
a
this become
comment
more
on that.
confusing?
You gotta get your vendors to agree.
I'm not understanding,
It's just come a little more confusing,
Like,
yes.
that would be something that they have to say that's for
Gonna make it-
you, wouldn't
gotta get
it?
a
Because we're
discount for paying
paying
late.
them, and they would have to say, if
I-
you pay early, how are we telling
as
them,
a-
hey, we're paying early and we're gonna take some.
As having been a small businessman myself, and having worked in large corporations that force this on their small vendors, it's a great thing, because when they force it on you, you know one thing: they're going to pay you in 10 days. You're going to have cash flow. It protects cash flow, and the one thing small businessmen need is cash flow.
Couldn't we leave it at 30 days and do that?
30 days net 10, or 30 days 1%? Why would they do that? There's no, the benefit to them is that they get paid very quickly. That's why it's tied to a 10-day payment.
Pay early.
It's quite common in business.
I think we're gonna see more of that.
He's making a motion to amend Lois's motion, so do we have a second on that?
We did.
Oh, did we have-
We saw-
I'm sorry.
we saw-
Discussed it since
That's
then.
right.
Can we get some feedback from either manager or the finance director?
I cannot pay benefit payments other than when they're due, or utility payments other than when they're due, so, just so everyone understands.
Well, we'd have to
Thank
make the
you.
caveat that that would apply to things that we're able to do it with.
Okay.
Okay. And that is my added language.
Wow.
That should be understood, that it's only things that you can force it on.
Go ahead, Diane, I'm sorry.
Percent can we force it on?
Yeah, I mean, what is the percentage that you could utilize it?
You could force it on. How many people?
She just
said-
named, let's see.
Future contracts, you could probably negotiate it into the
We don't have-
contract.
Yeah, since we are going to be sending contracts up that we are able to negotiate anyway.
Can you put that in, it's for anything future, to be negotiated in that with them?
They're gonna make you pay a difference.
You know, we also may run small business away from us too, that we would support as well. I mean, we're making this real hard.
Put it on the back end, where nobody will get it.
I also don't
You're gonna
believe
pay
we
for
can
them,
do
hold
the
it.
10-day thing, because the Home Rule Charter requires approval of council, and you're only allowed to prepay certain items. So, sorry.
And when we put,
I withdraw my motion.
when we put something out for bids, also, you know, they may look at it, we may not get the best bids if they're gonna wait 90 days or 60 days to be paid
And
rather
then,
than.
doesn't that depend on when we meet, when it's on our list of bills?
I just
How are
withdrew
we
mine,
gonna
I
do
withdrew
that?
mine to motion.
That's for the 45.
You withdraw,
Right.
Nick, you withdrawing your,
withdraw
okay.
the second.
Now we have a motion and a second.
Well,
Let's
let's
go back to
clarify.
the 30.
Let's clarify, since Mr. Erb had amended what I initially offered at 60 days.
Right.
To 45 days plus 10, with a discount of 1%. And since he withdrew that,
You're back to the 60
I'm back to
days.
60 days.
On things that you're able.
The added language to that would be on the allowable items. Now, if there's something that you're telling me is in the Home Rule Charter that tells us how we have to pay every single item, I'd like to know about it right now.
There's a section that talks about any prepayments, those items which we are, so if you have invoices and you're trying to pay them within the 10 days, it'd be a prepayment before the council meeting.
Well, council, there's a motion and a second, and I think we should leave things alone as they are, but that's just, and I don't have a vote, so.
Please let me just finish reading this.
So roll call. As you're reading, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mrs. Allison,
No.
Mr. Johns.
No.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach,
No.
Mr. Erb.
No.
All righty, now,
Well, no.
wait a minute. Sharon, are you okay?
5-minute break.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to give our stenographer a 5-minute break, so we're gonna recess for 5 minutes.
You're gonna pay more money.
Everybody.
And we're back from our small break, and Sharon's good again, so, Mr. Dice?
Yes, we're back to the ordinance to adopt the amended budget that has been amended this evening.
Can I just,
Let's go first for a motion on the floor. This is on the, item number one.
Item number 1 as amended.
As amended. Motion on the floor.
but I have a statement.
Let's get our motion and then second, or if there's no motion, motion on
This
the
is
floor.
relevant to this.
You'll have a chance to speak, though, Mr. You've been saying to
I could
me,
make that motion too, if I were, correct? I could make a motion, and I'll make a motion.
please.
We are $1.8 million, and close to 1.9 million, which is 7.09% that we still need to cut.
I know, Mike.
That includes not taking that 120 that Mr. Silka had originally put in. I still submit to you that we need to balance the budget at $24,504,827.73. And so I make a motion that we balance the budget at $24,504,827.73 without a tax increase, a millage increase.
Well, would, okay, you said to second that?
Is there a second?
Well, second, I want to have this discussion on this.
Discussion, please.
All right, so are you implying that the across-the-board cuts would be distributed, as you suggested before, in order to balance that by the department managers?
Yes,
And so you're not looking at your 8% any longer,
no, it's 7%.
so now it's a 7% across the board in departmental reductions per department managers.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I seconded that.
Any other discussions or comments on this item? Well, I'm certainly going to say a small comment anyway. I'm not sure that that's reasonable request on this motion. And second, just for the simple fact is, let's just talk about our public works. You had 65 members at one time, part of that. We're down to about 33. You're saying cut 7% more? What are you going to cut? Anything you can really cut to save any money is cut employees.
That's not-
We have an,
that's 100%.
let me finish, Mr. Erb, I didn't interrupt you.
Okay.
Or, what else are you gonna cut? You can't cut the salt that we're gonna need. They have equipment that's gonna cost money to upkeep it or buy new stuff. Go over to Parks and Rec. What can they cut? They're doing everything they can to bring funding in by all the various programs. Go to the administration. I think we've cut the administration down almost to the bare bones. Again, I would recommend that council, please do not accept this proposed budget as Mr. Erb and Mrs. Drumheller is suggesting. Any other questions or comments?
Well, some of the discussion here, I seconded it so that we could have discussion. And in looking back at I think it was a 2009 budget where there were early retirements offered, going forward to the beginning of this 2013 budget discussion, one of the first things that I had asked about the way that we used a three-person refuse delivery. I fully understand how that's not possible, given the type of backloading trucks that we do have. However, if anybody is suggesting that the department manager couldn't find more time left over in the refuse workers' days to be reallocated and work it any better, I can't think of a better person who would be able to work on that task than the department manager. And that goes across the entire department structure. In fact, I believe the 2008 or 9 budget, 9 would have been my first year on council, so toward that, there was a request, I think it was made by Mr. Francie, that those departments be given that directive. And I believe it was a 15% number. Do you recall that, Mr. Mayor? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So we've already been there. We've already had those people who were best able to evaluate those reductions. But instead of 15%, it's 7%.
Again, I think that all our departments have really cut down to the bone as it is. I mean, we've really reduced our numbers in staffing. I think they've certainly have cut every corner they can as far as expenditures for like supplies and et cetera. I'm just not sure where you'd get that at. Go
Didn't we
ahead.
do that when we did the early retirements? I thought that was a plan to do that along as well, to get that done, and I thought we were kind of at bare minimum. Mr. Sokol, when you met with each department head, were do you feel there is any amount, or did you get it to bare bones, which I thought your intent
I
was?
mean, the way this budget was presented, it's pretty much bare bones to maintain service levels as it is. If
To
we're-
maintain services. so-
Yes.
okay.
So and basically, if we're going to cut
Don't-
deeper, there's going to be service interruptions, and you're not going to see the same level of service.
No, the funny thing is, I've talked to many people, many employees, and the rank and file employees don't seem to think so. So maybe the rank and file employees have ideas of how they could do things more efficiently or where their costs could be cut, and convey them to their managers. The alternative, folks, is reality. The reality is, we have a $4,068,823 deficit if you want to face reality. So if we're going to do a tax increase, folks, if you're going to commit to a tax increase, then commit to one that actually does what it's supposed to do, which is pay for the future. And that $50 that she was talking about, just so that we're clear, is on every $186 that you currently pay. So if you're paying the municipality, obviously we all have different budgets, or we pay a lot more to the county and to the school board. But if you're paying the municipality $500 or $600, you take that $500, that goes up to $150. It's not quite as simple as saying it's just a $50 a year increase. It's not. It's dependent on the price of your house. And quite frankly, the little old lady up in Mellon Plan that has a $50,000 house can't afford the minimal amount that it's going to cost her more, any more than somebody that might own a $500,000 house over on Arden Court. They can't. People live to the means that they have. And like I said before, we expect that our taxpayers will have to cut their own services, their daily services, if we don't do this. So we need to do like our taxpayers, and instead of asking them to tighten their belts, we need to ask the municipality to do it again. Or else, go for the real thing. And $4 million, quite frankly, it doesn't cover future growth, so you might as well make it $6 million. But $4,068,823 is the real shortfall, if we want to be frank.
Any other questions or comments, guys? There's a motion and a second on Mr. Erb's motion. Please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
You abstain?
No.
Okay.
I'll let it fly. No.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
No.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
No.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Mr. Dice. We're now still seeking
Yes,
on our
I'm
first-
we're seeking a motion to approve the budget as amended on the agenda.
Motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Can we
Questions or comments, please?
Yeah, can we clarify therefore, the expenditure total, this is not, I wanted an update of the numbers on this budget, given the 7.5%
On the reserve
on
fund?
the reserve.
Correct.
Overall savings, based on what has been voted on so far, comes to $1,001,195. I just did that wrong. $1,001,195. And by the way, that does not include the fact that Mr. Silka wrote this budget that we just are looking to vote on based on spending $120,000 that is in a restricted fund that he cannot spend.
That incorporates that being restricted, the 120, is that
No,
what you're saying?
that
That is
1 million
not.
doesn't, because we haven't talked
Right,
about that
right.
120,000. But as this has been submitted, he expects to spend that 120,000, which he cannot spend.
There was a motion. Is there a second?
There is a second.
There is a second. Any other questions or comments? Sorry. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
Yes.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Dice.
Okay, the second ordinance is an ordinance fixing the real estate tax millage. You think, Jeff, at this time, it's appropriate to kind of get into the fact that we're in this reassessment year and a little bit of discussion?
Yes.
As you're all aware, this is the reassessment year, so certain other statutes come into play, one of which is the Allegheny County Second-Class Code, which has an anti-windfall provision in it. And in it, the steps that you'll follow to ultimately pass a tax levy are as follows. The first step is to come up with a revenue-neutral tax, because it is a reassessment year. So what you have to do is pass a tax levy that is based upon the revenues that you derived from last year. And let me read it to you. Each political subdivision which hereinafter levies its real estate taxes on the revised assessment, reevaluation, or change in ratio shall reduce its tax rates if necessary for the purpose of having the total amount of property tax revenue received exclusively as a result of the reassessment in the ratio equal, in a case of any political subdivision, the total amount of tax revenue received in the preceding year, notwithstanding the increased valuations of the properties that, of the annual reassessment system. This year, we're going to realize, I think, about a 20 to 25% increase in taxable properties. As a result, you have to reduce your tax first. The first step is to reduce your tax so that it becomes revenue neutral. And I think Jeff has kind of worked through that. We would pass that ordinance first. Then, because it is, again, a reassessment year, you can set a second tax levy at 105% of what it is that you collected last year, revenues. Then, if it's necessary, and it sounds like it will be necessary, if you're going to do a further tax increase beyond that, you'll have to seek court approval. So the third step would be that you would actually request your counsel to go forward and seek court approval to increase the tax millage to whatever it is that will balance your budget. That's a summary.
Questions for Mr. Dice on that?
With that, Jeff, do we have a number for the tax revenue portion, or tax revenue neutral?
1.80 mils.
Okay, so there would be a motion in order to set that as your tax revenue neutral ordinance at this time. Know that Judge Weddick has also extended the opportunity for all municipalities and political subdivisions to ultimately pass its tax levies, and I think it says 10 days before you send out your bills for taxes this year. I think your bills go out in what month? March? March 1st. So you would have to set your millage no later than February 20th or so, somewhere around there. So you have some time to get court approval if that's what we have to do. So a motion would be in order to first set the revenue neutral tax rate at 1.80.
80. Motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
So just to verify, this rate will cause no tax increase to any taxpayer?
No.
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Jeff, are you prepared to take it to the 105%? Do you?
We don't have the ordinance.
Okay. So that the next thing that I would suggest you do that we'll see to it that's on the next agenda is the 105% increase. And again, that's based on revenues last year, so it's only raising 5%.
Only?
That does not require court approval.
Only?
Now, secondly, I would suggest tonight, though, that because of the nature of what you've done, that you make a motion to authorize our firm to go forward and seek the approval of the court to raise the taxes in accordance with what has been said. And do we have an amount at this point?
Well, the numbers are going to have to be reconfigured because of the
Various things that
the
happened
actions
tonight.
today. Yeah, well, that within a day.
So I would ask for a general motion to permit us to seek approval to raise taxes to balance your budget
Motion on the floor, council.
before the Court of Common Pleas.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Can't we, I mean, I'd like to see if those numbers actually are,
We'll
are.
see to it. Well, yeah, I agree with that, and I would think we'll have those numbers out by the end of the week, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be less than the .783 mils that was originally proposed.
Let's, part of the motion is that you all see that number before we go forward with any petition.
So
Are you
before,
comfortable with that, or would,
Well, how do we see that number, Bruce?
Jeff's going to have to reconfigure it based upon what we did tonight.
In what manner? By email, by?
I think email's the best way. And let's put not to exceed. Not to exceed a number. What do you think it would be?
I'd say .783 mils, because that's what we needed to balance before. Yeah,
It sounds like it's going to be less than that.
So, Jim, you're going to amend your motion to that?
Or are you making that motion?
Making that
made the
motion.
motion.
Okay.
Steve seconded.
I mean, I'd rather see it all before. How do we do that?
I don't know.
Well, if we hold off, help me out here, Bruce, that would fall into February, which means...
I don't want to cut it that close.
Well,
I
that's
don't-
what I'm saying, we'd be
Yeah.
cutting it,
I mean, I'm going to need some time. I don't know how fast the court's going to
see, that's
react to this.
that's the problem. But if it exceeds what Jeff said, the .7...
Well, it's not going to exceed that.
83, it's not going to do that. It's
Well, I
gonna
think
be less.
I think Diane's thinking more like a half a mil.
Well,
Correct.
that was based on before we took some things that we were going to take out, we put them back in.
Yes.
So then I said that because I did them all.
But it is less than the set .783,
Yes, yes,
so
yes.
why don't we make that our ceiling?
Which?
I'm sorry?
Which?
The .7. It's going to be less than that, but that's no more than that. That's what you asked, am I not correct?
Yes.
Is council comfortable with that?
Okay, let's make it .5. And if we need to entertain a court action, we're going to call a special meeting.
Okay.
We can do that.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Questions or comments,
Oh,
council?
I just agreed with it.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Sharon, please.
So the motion is to accept it with the 5
Yeah.
Yes.
5
Point five.
as the ceiling.
To seek a tax increase of .5
As a ceiling or as a floor?
as a ceiling at this point.
That's exactly right.
Okay?
And if Jeff, the conclusion is, though, if Jeff finds out that it's .55, we're going to be calling a special meeting because it's exceeded the 5 if council wants to go any higher than that.
We only need 24 hours notice on that,
Right.
and I will certainly call that meeting. Everybody good? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Absolutely not.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Absolutely.
Not.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. We're making
It's a
progress.
joke, I know, but it seems.
That takes us through, number 3 is to set the fee schedule for 2013.
That was tabled. We need a motion to take it off the table, correct?
Right.
Motion to remove that and put it back on the agenda.
Motion to take from the table.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
I didn't hear what you're calling for.
I'm sorry.
Put the item number 3 back on the table. Take it off being tabled.
For the fee schedule.
Yes.
The fee schedule, okay.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Sure.
Motion to now accept the 2013 fee schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Okay, the last ordinance then is the ordinance adjusting the salary system for 2013 for exempt and non-exempt employees.
We need a motion to take
that
it off, take it on a table.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Sure.
And now a motion to accept the adjusting the salary for the 2013 for Monroeville exempt and non-exempt employees. Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
That
That
concludes.
completes the ordinances.
Thank you. And now we're open up for public comments. Public comments. Come on up.
Tell us, no?
Sign in and state your name for the record and your address, if you would, please.
My name is Len Young, 656 Cooper Road in Monroeville. And I want to thank you all for the entertainment tonight, the political theater that we witnessed here. I certainly wish it was on better terms with a better outcome, but nonetheless, it is what it is. I want to thank Mr. Erb for doing his due diligence with regard to the different scenarios on the budget. I thought he had some really good ideas, and it's a shame that we're just going to have more debt. One question I wanted to ask, I don't know if this is in line with this discussion tonight, but there's some bonds, 2012 bonds that are in the budget, like $3 million of a bond that's being offered. Does that fit in with the budget? Does that count as revenue that offsets the expenses?
Are you talking about the bond?
They're capital bonds for capital purchases.
Yeah,
That's capital improvements.
okay.
basically.
It's not within,
This budget.
but the $3 million is probably the $3 million of debt service that's paid on it, on our bonds. So that's payments we make to pay the bonds down that were taken out.
So we're borrowing more money to pay back the money we borrowed before.
No, there's no borrowing in this, budget.
Right, but I'm saying the bonds.
The bonds have been taken out in prior years. We're now paying them off.
Yeah,
That's all
So
that is.
so there's no new debt to pay off the bonds.
okay.
I think those are mutually exclusive things, like when you have a capital improvement plan,
Piece of Kenny's.
3 or 5 years, and in order to buy those big ticket items that fall
Yeah, I-
outside the budget, that's the yearly
I
budget.
just remember seeing them in the budget. There were these $3 million bonds. I think there's 2 of them.
That's that's debt service payments. That's paying off the bonds.
Yeah,
It's paying our debt down.
It's like paying a
Okay.
mortgage.
we all know about that. Okay. So, some other notes I had here. I asked a question last time, haven't quite got the answer yet, about the $6,000 for food for the snow and ice removal part of the budget. Anybody know what that $6,000, what kind of food they're going to be buying?
As part of the contract with our public works employees, if they work X amount of time over, they're entitled to meals. So as they're going on extended
Didn't hear me?
snow operations,
Yeah,
they're provided meals.
$6,000 worth.
Sometimes, Lynn, they don't leave for 24 hours
I'm
plus.
just saying, that's going to buy a lot of Whoppers, you know?
Well, it's
Consider
a
deal.
budget,
Keep
it's a
in mind,
budgeted
it also
number.
keeps them working during times when they would otherwise have to go get those meals themselves.
Yeah,
It
I
isn't.
mean, it's really, it's a benefit to the municipality,
yeah,
especially if we have a lot of snow or some other issue going on.
yeah, okay.
Do we have a detailed list of what type of meals that are submitted?
When Mike
Don't
has
wanna go
come
that
before us
far.
before, it's been things like
It just seems like a
pizza.
lot of money, that's all.
When-
Okay,
When Mike
one
has
other
come
thing.
before us before, when the superintendent of public works has come before us before,
Yeah.
it has basically been things like pizza.
Yeah.
It's not extravagant.
It's basically what you can eat as you're plowing.
Sure.
Safely.
And you gotta remember, and that's for a whole season too, though. That's just not
It's a
like
snow
1
season.
month.
It's for snow and ice removal,
Yeah, that's for the
Wintertime.
whole season, though.
which is maybe 3 months, something like
Could
that.
be longer. I
Okay.
don't want to say that off the top of my head, but it could be at least 3 to 5 months.
Okay, point made. So, one other thing, I'm going to try to be real brief. The library, we had that discussion about the library earlier, and interesting thing was, there's like this money in the budget. This always bothered me about budgets and that kind of thing. You got the money in the budget, and I think it was like $11,000 or something like that, that had to be spent so it would look good for the other entities that are contributing to the library. I don't know, the point I want to make is, just because the money's budgeted doesn't mean you got to spend it, okay? $1 million for that library, that always boggled my mind that the library would be so expensive. It's a wonderful asset to the community, of course, but boy, $1 million is a lot of money to run the library. It just seems like if you don't need the money, don't spend it, that kind of thing.
I'm going to maybe overstep a little
I'd
bit.
like to say something.
Yeah,
about that.
go ahead, Bern. I know you're going to say the same thing I'm going to say.
As it relates to the things that Director Fusco is doing, she is doing all the things that I've talked about for 3 years. She is partnering where possible. She is cutting costs where possible. She is thinking strategically so that we don't have larger costs where possible. She is getting grant money wherever possible. She's having people pay for services that they haven't paid for. This is not a case where it's not a money grab. This is a simple equation. If we take off 10%, the state can take off 20%. So if you think it's extravagant to pay $1 million for the library, wait till you get to 1.3 because we keep cutting it, and every time we cut, they take more
Okay.
than we cut.
Yeah, I didn't want to dwell on it, but
In
thanks
this
for your
particular
explanation.
11,000, again, it allowed us to eliminate a $70,000 position in the 2013 budget. So
Okay.
net, we're $60,000 ahead.
Spend some, save more. I understand. Okay, but I like your idea about having the managers cut 7%. I thought that was a great idea. Maybe for next year, we can start thinking about next year's budget, so it's not like the 11th hour like it is now, and it's like crunch time and everything. maybe we can look at it next year and start balancing that budget now. Thank you
Well,
very
I
much.
assure you, we'll start the budget process a little earlier.
Thank you, folks.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that proportion of the meeting, and we'll go over to our reports. And Jeff, you always seem to have the biggest ones, so
Bruce has one.
I'll get to you. Oh, you want to do yours?
I wanted to go before Jeff.
Go ahead, you can go then, Bruce. That's okay.
We have, if you remember, we discussed the matter of settling with PennDOT over that case that goes back to Marshall's time. I would recommend that we settle the case for $84,000. If you remember, the original claim was over $180,000. I know that Paul's taken a look at it, and I believe he would support that this is a good number.
We did discuss this at our work session, folks, I think at fairly good length, but any other questions or comments? Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
I second it.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
You got that first?
I was first on the list.
Oh, okay.
I'm number one.
All right.
I can go now?
You can go now.
Okay, I just have three brief issues. One is the UPMC Community Benefits Agreement that was talked about a little bit earlier today. As I explained in the work session and Councilperson Allison explained, in 2012, as they're trying to find out a formula to use throughout the county, UPMC offered to do some capital projects, and we were able to receive $75,000 for two projects. One is $25,000 for the installation of sound barriers for the firing range at the Public Safety Training Center, and we did receive $50,000 for a new pavilion at the community park. And the good thing about the community park pavilion is that our pavilions book out every year, so that'll actually be a revenue producer once it's in and put in. And we do have those. Those funds were transferred to the municipality this month, and they are in our system. Just an update, the mayor's office, as I was charged via resolution, has been relocated to the second floor into the former office of the congressman. So that is done, and he is now occupying that office. And thirdly, and this, I'm going to need action on this, we did receive two deputy emergency management coordinator resignations. Chief Ron Harvey and Chief Brian Reed each resigned.
And how are those resignations written?
Via letter, or?
Yeah,
Brian Reed stated that he found that he's not qualified to hold the position, and I have Chief Harvey's here. Do you want me to read the letter, or?
yeah. What's the date and how's it written?
Let me find where that is. In my packet here.
Oh, I put my packet away, I apologize.
Yeah,
My old packet here, if you'd like to see this.
yeah, if you have it, there's this. Oh, here's Chief. Chief Harvey's was on December 21st, 2012. Do you want me to read? Do you want me to read
No.
it?
Well, how's it written? Yes. What's it say?
Please consider my resignation from the position of one of the Assistant Emergency Management Coordinators.
All over.
I have volunteered 42 years of my life trying to help make Monroeville a little safer place to live and visit. I have spent countless hours away from my family and personal responsibilities. Attached is one of the most insulting letters I've ever received from my volunteer time, and yet no one who matters.
Yeah, you don't need to read that portion of it. I just was trying to see. Mr. Dice,
Yes, sir.
a letter of resignation is not accepted until we accept it.
That's correct.
So until we accept this, he's still an emergency manager, coordinator, deputy.
Well, you have to apply that to a fact situation. Would he still be liable for whatever he's doing? I would say yes. If he chooses not to perform the service, I'm not sure what your relief would be. I mean, we're going to go to court to enforce him to be the assistant manager.
No, I just want to know when the effective date of his
effective date of it
resignation
is
would
when
be.
you-
So it'd be 2013.
It would be the smart thing, it would be the prudent thing to do,
But it would be 2013.
it would be whenever, yes.
Okay,
You document it.
What would
It
the
would be,
prudent thing
it
be?
would be tonight if you accepted it.
understood. But so it'd be effective 2013.
January 8th, 2013.
Okay. And they were appointed when?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Who would have a
That
clue?
information with me.
Well, the only documented evidence that I even knew existed of their existence as deputies was dated, a memo dated acknowledging it from the EMC, and that was December 2011. I don't know the exact date, December 8, 2011, the earlier part of December of 2011. But I had no
2011?
idea until recently
They were
that
appointed in 2011?
December, there's a memo, December of 2011.
If,
They all go on the same time?
may I
Oh,
step in
thanks.
there? If you look at the original ordinance, when, the emergency management coordinator was appointed, it just addressed the coordinator, not any assistants.
Right.
Okay? So my question to you, Mr. Dice, is this still an appropriate venue for them, for council
So
to
you're
accept?
saying council never appointed,
That is correct.
I understand, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I think I'm right, that they were appointed by the fire chief at that time. Or
Okay.
I think, I'm
all
not
right,
positive.
if that's the
of that.
case, then
Fire chief.
the
I think.
resignation is really to the fire chief.
They were all fire chief, huh?
It's not
But the
the
fire
deputy.
chiefs wouldn't be the ones that, fire chiefs couldn't
That's what he told
appoint.
I'm not saying that's
This position.
right, I'm just saying.
You mean emergency management?
Do you mean,
The
emergency
EMC.
management
The
coordinator?
emergency
assistant.
management coordinator, I'm sorry.
But nonetheless, they're appointed officials of the municipality of Monroeville once they've been appointed, even if we have not voted on that. If he
For possible liability purposes, yeah.
okay, and what's important about that is,
Ostensibly, they would be.
as of the date that they were appointed,
All we're
if
trying
I
to do is
if I
accept the
remember my
resignation.
appointed officials' rules properly, they need to file a ethics form and financial
Okay, well,
for the
that-
year prior to being appointed, the year appointed,
Who
and
put
all
the one in
years that they are
charge?
currently appointed.
I think that.
So that would be
Who appointed
2010
the one in
through
charge? That's what I'd like to
2013,
know.
if they were
You mean the
appointed in
emergency management
2011.
Coordinator? Me.
You appointed them all?
No.
Appointed one?
Just Doug right now. It was Dave, now it's Doug, when Dave retired.
Oh, okay.
Well, Bern's point is, do they have, he's suggesting that they're required to file an ethics form.
My understanding is they do not have to, according to their attorney. So I don't know that. That's a legal question.
As appointed officials of the municipality or employees of the municipality, everybody that works for a government must submit them.
Bern, I'm not going to disagree with you, but I am not an attorney, and neither are you. I think I would like it.
No, but
council would
like
charge.
you, I've had to fill out plenty of them.
Oh, I do too. I fill mine out regularly, but I guess the point I'm
It's
trying to
my
make is.
understanding that that question is being posed to the ethics board.
Correct.
Okay, and they'll be the ones that'll decide it, and they can take an appeal from it if they're not happy. But I understand your position.
And I do as well, but I think we're
Right now, we're talking about a resignation.
I understand, I just want to make sure I know what the date that it's effective, based on the fact that it.
Can I make a
impacts
motion that
that
we accept
information.
their resignation?
Yes.
Can I make a motion we accept their resignation?
both of them.
Both of them.
There's a second, okay.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
What I have.
Bern, we'll start off with you this evening.
I want to thank everybody that showed up. I know many of you came to oppose a millage increase. Unfortunately, you're going to have to live with one. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank the people that came in support of a millage increase. This is your council, and this is your municipality. So all of you needed to show up, and so I'm glad you did. I want to thank everybody that's watching on TV, and everybody, have a fantastic 2013.
Thank you, sir. Nick?
I think it's pretty obvious there's a lot of work to still be done here at the municipality, and I look forward to, once again, working with council productively and civilly, professionally, and hopefully that we can make some positive changes for the community, and task Mr. Silka, along with his department heads, to find other avenues to provide our services more efficiently, more effectively, but still at the high level that our residents deserve. And I would like to, on a much lighter note, wish my daughter Hannah a very happy birthday this weekend. She's going to be 8 years old. So
All righty.
that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Lois?
Yes, Mayor. Before I get into maybe just a few things, one is a reminder, the other one's a little bit of a fun thing, but I thought about this seriously, because there have been many people who've come up and made comments. I do appreciate and listen to every one of them, and I've answered every email. It would have been easy for me to join Mr. Erb in the vote, and knowing that this budget, as it was passed, I could have chosen that, but, seeing where the cards were laid on the table, I don't know that I can't escape the responsibility of at least voting for the budget at hand and weighing in on that. I do hope that when we are looking at some of the things that impacted the budget, that we would remember some of the comments that were recently made about OPEB. And the years that I wanted to join that finance committee and was not chosen by the then deputy mayor, led me to learning everything that I ever wanted to learn about the finance committee and OPEB this last year. In so doing, I have to say that some of the figures brought forth on the OPEB, where that money was put into post-employment benefits, how that money came about through part of the settlement that we had with the lawsuit. When you take a look at the amount of time that's gone by, and you take a look at all the facts and figures of what it was going to take to put money into post-employment benefits each year. In the beginning, this is something that did not work out. In the beginning, there was I thought, a prudent plan to take the safe way of taking that money and holding on to, making not getting money on return on your investment, but return of your investment, which meant that we were needing to look during all these years what happened to the money that we would have been able to continue to use to fund these post-employment benefits. Now, for the benefit of the committee, Dr. Grisak and Mr. Ramsey sit on that committee with me, and I chair that OPEB. I made a presentation some months back about what we would have done had we been prudent in taking the investment and annualized from the bottom of the market, which was actually the beginning of 2009, and what we would have done by reinvesting what we were getting. Now, you have to realize that we don't have the same market conditions, so what we would have been making would have been a 17.38% because the market had bottomed out. And the following year, we would have had 17.38%. In the third year of that investment, we would have had 17.38% on the investment. And since that is an annualized return, the money that is made is compounded and reinvested. Theoretically, we would have had, and I know this is just theoretical, $6 million across that period of time. Conservatively, we would have had $3 million. What I'm saying is that all of the things that I listened to that were said by Mr. Kukrer, where you were looking at what the annualized payment would need to be, the prudent thing would have been to have looked the way that it was invested, so that you would have been able to continue to fund it. That was the one part that I was waiting for him to talk about that he never has in the past, never did this last Thursday. And that's unfortunate, because we could have, if it was carefully structured in the fee schedule of structuring how people will manage your money, we could have earned that amount of money to continue it. We didn't, and we have in front of us an opportunity in this year to maybe make another evaluation of that. Because if you're going to have an amount of money that you put into funding post-employment benefits, then you had better had a plan in the beginning as to how you were going to annualize your return and have enough money to continue to fund it. Instead, we kept diminishing and drawing from. And what we did is we drew down so much that now we simply have actually you don't have $121,000 left. So hindsight's 20/20. We needed to have a better plan and to begin with. We could have put it into a high-quality mutual fund with, tied to something that we would have had to have managed here, in-house. Maybe we can do that in the future. To partially fund it is at least a good idea. But I want to make that clear point about that. It's not that anything that was brought about OPEB was said incorrectly. It's that there was a real important piece that was left out, and that's the important piece I wanted to explain. Anybody really needs more of an explanation, please contact me, and I'll be glad to show you exactly how that did not happen and how unfortunate that was, because we're not able to have the amount of money to continue to fund it, or at least partially fund it. So that's a goal for 2013. And it's a goal that I hope to continue to work on, and I hope we could make some sound choices on that so that we could have a good fee structure when we're trying to finance OPEB. Now, on a lighter side, I have a couple of things that I wanted to just in reflection of some of the things that were in 2012 accomplishments. I was able to visit Girl Scout Troop 665 right before Christmas, and so I took the opportunity to share with them some recognition. Girl Scout Troop 665 was helping us raise 550 pounds of fresh organic produce from our food garden. Now, I've got a picture here of the Girl Scouts, and they are in receipt of what the USDA provided. I had ordered these things, it was well over a year ago, but these are T-shirts. And these T-shirts have a beautiful picture in front, and then I think that the saying on top of the picture is share your harvest, and that's exactly what they helped us accomplish. So here are the Girl Scouts that helped out with our food garden, and of course they were invited back to help with our third year of the food garden. That'll be this year. And this is a garden that grows food for the food banks, and the 4 food banks in Monroeville and Pitcairn. And the garden, actually design of that garden doubles as a permaculture design for maintaining stormwater. It captures runoff, in other words. And if anybody wishes to understand a little bit more about permaculture gardening on their own property, please contact me. So toward the 2013 food garden goals, I'll be requesting some things of our community, their help with volunteerism, help with building a fence around it so that we don't have to deal with varmints. And in the spring months that are coming up, I'll please keep everybody, I'll be pleased to keep you all informed about that. Then I want to mention one more time about something I mentioned Thursday night, which is Seniors in Motion. This is a contest at the Senior Center. And to help keep everybody's resolution for 2013, there is a contest that will commence January 14th, and it will run from that time to about Friday, May 24th. Each time seniors visit the Senior Center and they participate in a fitness activity, they have a card that they can pick up and a member of the staff to punch that card. Once they've gone 10 times to work out, they can drop their card off in a raffle box that's located there, and there will be a drawing. The winner will receive a fitness basket filled with all kinds of goodies to keep them on the right track to a healthy living lifestyle. And of course, there's going to be some other second and third prize winners, and that drawing will eventually be held on Wednesday, May 29th. So everybody who's going into the Senior Center, please gear up and think about this raffle and fitness at the same time. And that's all I have.
Jim?
I have nothing, sir. Thank you.
Diane?
Yeah, I just want to save some of the events that are coming to the Monroeville Convention Center. Saturday, January 19th and Sunday the 20th, Greenberg's Train and Toy Show. January 24th through 27th, the 53rd anniversary of the Pittsburgh Boat Show to get everyone ready for summer. Upcoming in February, we have February 2nd and 3rd, Showmasters Gun Show. And on the February 7th through 10th, the Pittsburgh Indoor-Outdoor Home Show. February 13th through 17th, the Allegheny Sport, Travel, and Outdoor Show. And at the end of the month, February 23rd and 24th, the Pittsburgh Fire, Rescue, and EMS Exhibition. That's all I have, thank you.
Steve?
I have nothing more to add tonight.
Clarence?
This election wasn't too popular with me. I didn't think too much of it. It was a tough deal for me to do it. Left a few people hanging, and a few people that's on my mind that I figured I was trying to protect in a sense. I guess you can't protect them, so. Sorry if I let you down, anybody. Next time, maybe we'll do better in 2030. No problem.
And I certainly think that enough's been said tonight. Just want to say Happy New Year to all, and thank you all for who did come and tuned in. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and good night, ladies.